Hi again. Core action value number 2 is integrity. And as I said last time, authenticity is defining who you are when you're your best self. Integrity is living who you are as your best self. It is character. And the Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, character is destiny. And that's true for organizations and for individuals, isn't it? We've seen it happen, with the Bernie Madoff scandal, with Enron. We've seen how a failure of character flaws, can create failure at a personal failure at an organizational level. And sometimes I'll have people look at this entire course, the 60 modules, 12 values, 48 cornerstones, and they say, Joe, you left out something that's really important to me, really important to our organization. What's that? You left out trust, you left out respect. Those are the two things I hear more than anything else. And my response to that is, the trust and respect are important, but they are not values, they're outcomes. You earn trust, you earn respect, and you earn trust and respect by living your values, and perhaps more than any other value, you earn trust, you earn respect by living with integrity. And think about that word integrity. The root of the word integrity is integer. Integer means one unified whole. And that applies in two ways. One, integer, one unified whole means you are the same person at work and at home. You don't have a separate set of ethics. You don't have a separate set of behaviors for the workplace and for your home life. It means that people can rely on you to be reasonably consistent. They don't have to wonder what kind of mood you're in today when you come to work. That you're able to be the same person reliably. Doesn't mean you're always acting the same. It doesn't mean you can't be spontaneous, but it means you can be trusted to act within a certain set of principles and ethics. And at a broader level, integrity, integer, one unified whole, applies to the human race. I think Mother Teresa put it best when she said, we are all children of the same God. Anytime anybody looks down their nose at another person, judges another person, they sort of break that fabric. And integrity means to be able to look past superficialities, to be able to look past our differences in opinions or beliefs, and to see the human being inside that shroud of superficialities. Something else before we get into the cornerstones, and that is to be aware of how easy it is to violate integrity and not even know you're doing it. An example that I often give when I'm speaking, I talk to a lot of organizations, I'll ask this question. Is integrity a core value here? Either explicitly or implicitly, is it important? Every hand goes up. Is integrity a value to you personally? Every hand goes up again. So then I'll say, integrity being important, I want an honest answer to this question. Is there a rumor mill in this organization? And sheepishly, every hand goes up. And I point out that if your culture tolerates two people talking about a coworker, two people talking about a customer, a patient, behind that person's back, that is a violation of integrity because it is, by the fact of it, untrue. Anytime you're spreading rumors, even if what you say is factually correct at the time, by the time it goes through the telephone game, it's become a lie. And if you were serious about integrity at a personal level, you would not participate in gossip. As soon as it started, you'd say, whoa, let's call Joe and get him down here, make him part of this conversation if we're going to talk about him. Or you'd get up and walk away and say, I cannot be part of this. If you were serious about integrity as an organization, your culture would be such that as soon as somebody started, bells would go off. Whoa, this is a violation of our integrity. And when you start seeing integrity as a value, when you start living the 4 cornerstones we're going to go through, it makes it easier for you to recognize those times when you're not living or the people around you are not living with integrity. And the first cornerstone, obviously, begins with honesty. You earn trust by being honest, by telling the truth. And honesty begins with self-honesty. And here are some of the ways that we lie to ourselves. We deceive ourselves. First of all is denial. Classic problem for alcoholics. I don't have a drinking problem. I don't have a debt problem. I don't have a spending problem. Denial is a form of dishonesty, of self-dishonesty. Rationalization, justifying inappropriate behaviors. Well, I had to yell because. That is a form of being dishonest with yourself, justifying, rationalizing away your behaviors. Here's a big one. Procrastination is often a form of dishonesty. Oh yeah, I'll get around to that tomorrow. And tomorrow comes and, oh yeah, I'll get around to that again tomorrow. And you know that you're not telling the truth. You're not being honest with yourself. And very often, being dishonest with other people begins with having been dishonest with yourself. And another one that I talked about when we covered authenticity, but it's important because it's a matter of self-honesty, is this. Low self-esteem and a poor self-image can be excuses for laziness and cowardice. And very often, you're just not being honest with yourself. You are allowing a poor self-image, which you don't deserve. You are allowing low self-esteem, which you don't deserve, to prevent you from taking actions you're afraid to take, and you're being dishonest with yourself. When we get to courage, we'll talk about how do you confront those inner barriers that prevent you, those fears that prevent you from stepping out of your comfort zone, from confronting that low self-esteem, that poor self-image. But for now, just recognize it for what it is. It is a form of dishonesty. Probably nowhere else is the DDQ, the direction deflection question, more appropriate or more powerful when it comes to being honest with yourself. Is what I'm about to do or say the truth? Is what I'm about to do or say going to help me be my best self? Is the way I'm about to spend my money consistent with what I have said my values are? Is the choice I'm about to make on how I spend my time, watching TV or playing with the kids? Self-honesty. The DDQ is a very powerful tool for helping you close that gap between what you say your values are and what the proverbial man from Mars would see in your behaviors if they were able to watch. Second cornerstone of integrity is reliability. And again, this is very intuitively obvious. I will trust you if you do what you say you're going to do. And if you don't do what you say you're going to do, it's going to make it much harder for me to trust you. There's an old saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't believe that for a minute. I think you ought to have lots of good intentions. They are a wonderful thing. The problem comes when good intentions turn into broken promises. And reliability, there's a saying in customer service, under promise and over deliver. That happens to be a pretty good formula for you personally to be more reliable. Don't let those good intentions get turned into promises if you're not committed to keeping them. Probably the greatest definition I know of reliability is this. It is doing what you've said you're going to do, when you've said you're going to do it, and doing it to the very best of your ability. If you do that consistently, you will earn the reputation of a person who is reliable. You will earn the reputation of a person who has integrity. And I want to share with you 9 words that can change your life. Simple, but not easy. There are 3 sets of 3. You've heard them all before. And the first one is just say no. If you want to be more reliable, say no to more things. The more commitments you make, the more likely it is you're going to end up breaking those commitments. So say no to the things that aren't important so you can focus on the things that are important. Next one I know you've heard, if you watch any TV at all, just do it. The Nike slogan. Instead of putting things off, instead of procrastinating, reliability means you get started and you do what you have to do. Brian Tracy wrote a wonderful book on how to get things done, how to manage your time, called Eat That Frog. It's from an old Mark Twain saying, eat a live toad first thing in the morning, your day will get better from then on. And if you can just do it, you will, again, earn the reputation of being somebody who is reliable. And the third, I know you've heard this too, do it now. Instead of waiting, instead of procrastinating, do it now. Just say no to the things that don't matter. Just do it to the things that do matter, and do it now. Get started. That's how you become a more reliable person. Now, those first two cornerstones, honesty and reliability, those are intuitively obvious. And whenever we think of integrity, those are things that we think of. The next two are not quite so obvious, but they are just as important. And the third cornerstone of integrity is humility. And so let me introduce it by asking you this question. Do you trust arrogant people? I know I don't. Would you trust an arrogant person with your job? I know I wouldn't. Arrogance is often the pride that goes before the fall, and we don't trust and shouldn't trust arrogant people. Jim Collins, who has written many books on leadership, he wrote Good to Great and Built to Last, and most recently Great by Choice. And he talks about what he calls level 5 leadership. There are 5 levels of leadership, and level 5 is the very top. And level 5 leadership, he says, is this paradoxical blend of a very strong personal will, a commitment to get things done and achieve goals, coupled with a sense of personal humility. And you know, at Values Coach, we have the opportunity to work with a lot of people that I think are amazing leaders. And they all have that paradoxical blend in their personalities. They're very determined to get things done, but they're also very humble people. And they're willing to, and you should be willing to, say, I don't know. They're willing to, and you should be willing to say, I made a mistake. I did something wrong. They are willing to, and you should be too, in fact, this is, I think, one of the definitions of a great leader, willing to give credit and take blame. When things go wrong, take the blame for it. Yep, I made that decision. Yep, I was responsible. I perhaps did not do it myself, but I had overall responsibility. That's what good management, that's what good leaders do. When things go right, give credit. I'm always astonished that the best leaders that we work with at Values Coach, whenever I compliment them on their organization, the answer is almost always, or the response is almost always, and it's always genuine, oh, I'm just lucky to have a lot of great people working with me. And they mean it. So take the blame when things go wrong, have the courage to take the blame when things go wrong, and give credit to other people. Have the generosity of spirit to include everybody, to share the praise with the people who actually got it done. One more thing about humility. And this is especially important in our world today, which has become so polarized along political lines, religious lines, on what you have, scientific lines, you know, whether you believe in global warming or not. We have become so polarized. Just because you believe something doesn't make it true. And just because you don't believe something doesn't make it false. And if you can remind yourself of that when you're talking to somebody else, when you're reading the newspaper, when you're watching the TV news, whatever, remind yourself, just because I happen to believe something doesn't make it true. It will help you be a more humble person. It will help you be a more open-minded person. And long term, I'm quite sure it will help you be a more successful person. And the fourth cornerstone of integrity, and again one that is not completely intuitive, but it is a matter of integrity, is stewardship. It is a matter of integrity that we treat our resources effectively at 3 levels. At a personal level, it is a matter of integrity that you manage your finances. You take care of your health in such a way that you don't someday become a burden on your family or on society. At an organizational level, it is a matter of integrity that you treat the resources of the organization, including the time you spend on the job, as if it was your own, that you don't waste things. Why? You owe it to your customers to make their costs as low as possible for the things they buy. If you're in healthcare, you know, we have this healthcare cost crisis where costs are escalating at an unsustainable rate. We all have responsibility to do our part to try to keep healthcare costs down by treating resources effectively, by using our time effectively. And at a global level, we have an absolute obligation to do everything we can to pass on a beautiful world to our great-grandchildren's generation. Chief Seattle said, "We don't own the earth, we're borrowing it from our grandchildren. And we're actually a lot more like the renters who move into the apartment, trash the place, and skip town without paying the rent, and leave it to the grandchildren to clean up the mess. And I want to challenge you to engage yourself in 3 imagined conversations at each of these 3 levels. First of all, imagine you having a conversation with the person that you will be the day you retire. And ask that person a couple of questions. What would you, future me, what would you like me to do now that's different than what I'm doing? And I can almost guarantee you'll hear 2 things. One, I wish you'd get up from the couch and turn off the TV and go get some exercise so that when you're retired, you can travel and do all the things you wanted to do and not be tired all the time. And number 2, I wish you would actually disconnect the cable and stop wasting money on all of that fluff so that when you retire, you can have the money to do the things you've always said you've wanted to do. And having that conversation with the imaginary you, the you you're going to be at some point in the future, can help you be a more effective steward, help you act with greater integrity with the resources you have today. Second conversation, have a conversation with your typical customer, or if you're in healthcare, with a patient. What would you like to see us do different here? And if you do this in good faith, you've talked to enough customers and patients probably, you'll have a pretty good idea of what they'll say. And acting on that, again, can help you be a better steward of the resources of your organization and act with a higher level of integrity. And finally, imagine yourself having a conversation with your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren when they've grown up. And ask them, what do you think I personally and our culture could have done to give you a better world 30 or 50 years from now? And again, you'll probably hear an answer, and if you can act on what that answer is, you'll become a more effective steward. So let me wrap up with 2 thoughts. 1, it is true that you can, in the short run, achieve big goals, achieve great success, make a lot of money by violating fundamental principles of integrity. Enron did it for a long time. They were on the cover of one business magazine after another. They were a most admired company. The CEO, the CFO made a ton of money, but eventually their lack of integrity made the entire company fail. Bernie Madoff did it for quite some time. He violated fundamental principles of integrity. Of course, he's in prison now, and many people are financially much poorer because they trusted this untrustworthy person. And the second thing I'd challenge you to do is put some thought into the difference between principles and opinions. I think we should have a fairly small number of inviolate, unchanging principles and a much larger range of opinions. And let's take a real-world example, something that's a very hot issue today, global climate change. You may have as a fundamental core principle, we should do everything we can to pass on a better world to future generations. Now, when it comes to global climate change, your opinion could be, it really is not caused by humans, and the best thing we could do is to find new sources of energy so that my grandchildren have a better world, because cheap energy drives a lot of what our economy is all about. That could be your opinion. Your opinion could be, we need to do everything we can to reduce the use of fossil fuels to make it a cleaner, safer world for future generations. That could be your opinion. Those opinions are based on scientific facts, on economic facts, hopefully because you have humility, hopefully because you're an effective steward, you will pay attention to what is the science, what are the economics. You'll be willing to change your opinion if the facts change, but that core principle never changes. Two people who have different opinions can engage in a meaningful dialogue. They can talk to one another. They can say, you know, you may be right. You know, I never thought of it that way. You know, I was not aware of these facts. Two people who are arguing about contrary principles can only fight. They can only say, you're wrong because I'm right. So be clear about where you are with core principles that should not change and where you are with opinions. Have a few core principles, have a lot of opinions, and then have the humility, have the integrity to be willing to change those opinions as the world changes, as your understanding of the world changes. That's what core action value number 2 is, integrity. Now, to live a life of integrity, you also need to become more aware. Pay better attention to what's going on internally and in the world around you. And that's what core action value number 3, awareness, is. So we'll cover that next. I'll see you next time.